In this review, you'll find out why the Hyundai Santa Fe stands out as one of the market's best mainstream 7-seat SUVs. Santa Fe was facelifted for 2015. It got extra equipment, but the fundamentals remained the same. I've been evaluating the latest top-spec Santa Fe Highlander for 3 months now, and this review is aimed at you if you're in the market now, thinking about buying a 7-seat SUV, but you're worried about the brand. Is Hyundai's transformation from cheap to allegedly desirable just more baseless marketing spin, or is this concept actually built on a foundation of substance? Let's find out. Over the next few months, I'll be reviewing this vehicle in detail. I'm doing it because, frankly, more people should put Santa Fe on their SUV shortlists. But in the minds of some, the brand can be a real impediment. In other words, if you get your ass in the seat of a Santa Fe, there's a pretty good chance your ass is going to want to buy one, compared with the competition. Your ass will sit there and say, I had no idea Hyundais were this good. Hyundai has supplied the vehicle for evaluation here, but they are not paying for this review, and I'm receiving no compensation whatsoever from Hyundai for producing it. The views expressed here are entirely mine, and they are completely independent. If Hyundai or anyone else doesn't really like what I say, I'm pretty sure I'm still going to sleep like a baby later on. This first instalment is about why you should put Hyundai on your list. Some people don't, because they equate Hyundai the brand with cheap, in every sense of the word. Because they're living in the past, presumably. That was then, this is now. If that's you, I'd suggest it's time to put those preconceptions to one side and reevaluate impartially. The time's right. I can tell you the Japanese are absolutely spooked by Hyundai Kia. I would not want to be a Japanese car maker being squeezed from the bottom up by the South Koreans and their ever better entrance in the market, and pressured from the top down by cheap European cars. The Japanese literally seem to have nowhere to run. Santa Fe is not cheap, but it is very good value. Obviously, they're different propositions. Here in Australia, you will pay mid $50,000 for the works burger of Santa Fe's, the Highlander. That's a serious spend. At least it is for most people. So if you're thinking about spending 50-something grand on a Hyundai, which would have been an unthinkable, even absurd proposition a decade ago, here's what you need to know. The Santa Fe is a real philosophical departure for Hyundai, a company on a very different trajectory today compared with just a few years ago. Hyundai was the brand you bought because it was cheap. Not as good as the competition, frankly, just cheaper. That's a very simple commercial proposition. Even a federal cabinet minister would get that. But this is quite different, you know. Santa Fe, not cheap, but instead very good value. Hyundai is fighting something of an uphill battle against those lingering preconceptions back from its cheap and admittedly sometimes pretty nasty past. But people are coming around, and they are doing it in droves. The goalposts are in a state of real flux. Now, partly that's because Hyundai vehicles are intrinsically different today. But Hyundai's been at the helm of the SS, buy me I'm cheap, for about 20 years. And these things, even though they're intangible, they acquire significant momentum. Even when you spin that tiller as hard as possible and try as hard as you can to go about, they resist. Isaac Newton, I can't decide if he'd be chuffed or insulted by that, because you've got something with no mass, intangible, and yet it's got momentum, inertia, whatever. Maybe we should leave Newton out of this entirely, because time rates of change of momentum become undefined as the mass tends asymptotically towards zero. Am I right? So let's look at history instead, because one recent event came along and allowed Hyundai finally to achieve escape velocity from planet cheap. Can you guess? It was the global financial crisis. That's when the 4 horsemen of the automotive apocalypse rode out of hell. They opened the 7 seals and they blew the trumpets at General Motors and Chrysler. You probably remember that. It was on the news. Then they threw Ford into a lake of fire and imprisoned it for 1,000 years in a bottomless pit. Or was that Satan? I'm pretty sure it was Ford, but I always get them mixed up. Then the horseman galloped across the Pacific, as you recall, and inflicted the remaining 19 chapters of the Book of Revelation on the likes of Honda and Nissan. Lakes of burning sulphur, the sea running as blood, pestilence, plagues. 2009 kind of sucked for most car companies. It was so bad, those traditional big automotive players, Ford, Chrysler, GM, Honda, Nissan, they still can't find their dicks in the dark, even today. Actually, that whole dick in the dark non-discovery deal is not part of the Book of Revelation, but maybe it should be. Think about it. What a horrific concept. You'd be leaving the light on all night and drawing a map in case there's a blackout. I know I would. But the GFC was not all bad. Even as other car companies were making like the Titanic in the early hours of April 15, 1912. The GFC proved to be a real launchpad for Hyundai because people still needed cars and Hyundai had the right product at the right price. As other car makers were overtaking Thorpe and winning Olympic gold for Australia in the 100 metres molten sulphur breaststroke, Hyundai's sales just accelerated, and that's what allowed the massive R&D reinvestment required to produce world-class vehicles like the Santa Fe today. I guess one car company's biblical apocalypse is another car company's salvation, or at least launchpad. Proving everything, even Carmageddon, is a good news, bad news story. Globally, the automotive deck chairs are still being rearranged and faster than at any other time in recent history. Hyundai is on the up, it's clear. Here in Australia today, Hyundai is the fourth biggest automotive brand by sales, behind Toyota, Mazda and Holden. Hyenas have already gnawed on the bones of Ford as a potential starter on the podium anytime in the foreseeable future, and Holden will absolutely give away its place on the podium before 2016. Sometime this year, Hyundai will step up into third spot. It's a confluence of events. Hyundai is just hitting its stride, and Holden is presently making like Nero, Claudius, Caesar, Augustus, Germanicus, just call me Nero, back in 64 AD. The vaunted icon that is the red lion we love is kicking back and fiddling like a 15-year-old, while Rome makes like London on September the 2nd, 1666, when someone allegedly left the tumble dryer on in Knightsbridge. That was in the news too. Santa Fe is the best vehicle in the Hyundai lineup today. Literally, it's the shape of things to come, the harbinger of greater South Korean success. Santa Fe is a 5 a.m. wake-up call to direct competitors from the land of the rising sun, that's for sure. But it's really the same thing to the prestige brands. Compare all of the features you get standard in a Santa Fe Highlander for 50-something grand to what you get in an Audi Q7, a Volkswagen Touareg or a Mercedes-Benz ML. Sales of Santa Fe have surged. They're up 12.5% so far this year, year on year. The price really doesn't seem to be that much of an impediment because the value proposition absolutely adds up. In the next instalment of this long-term Santa Fe evaluation, we'll check out in detail some of those competitors and see why Santa Fe blows them into the weeds. If you're after a Santa Fe right now and you want the lowest possible price, that's pretty easy. Contact me via the website autoexpert.com.au. If you already own a Q7, a Touareg or even an ML, I'm terribly sorry to hear that. In time, the pain will heal, and with the right medical advice and intensive physiotherapy, you might even one day walk again. Might. Don't despair. There's always hope. Anything's possible. The meek will inherit. It's always darkest just before dawn. Tomorrow is another day. It ain't over till it's over. You can have it all. It takes one to know one. A bird in the hand is worth two in the bush. Every journey starts with a single step. You only get one life. Money isn't everything. Cleanliness is next to godliness. Many hands make light work. Only time will tell. A rolling stone gathers no moss, and it's a long way to the top if you want to rock and roll. Sorry about that. I just got trapped apparently in a loop of infinite tabloid reporting platitudes. Don't forget to like this video, Leave a comment below to let me know what you think and subscribe for regular updates. I'm John Cadogan, going back on the meds now. Thanks for watching.